Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, I'll have earned your subscription. And to everyone else who's watching, if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That's a great way to support the channel without having to spend any money. And if you'd like to help support the channel financially, you can visit eguitarplans.com or you can visit the Highline Guitars merch store, which is displayed below the description for this video. In either case, your purchase is helping to support this channel and keep it going. So what I'm going to be talking about today is another tool review. I just got the StewMac Fret Tang Nipper. So I thought I would demonstrate this and give you my thoughts on it. Let me bring you in closer and I'll show you how it works. Recently I did a review of the StewMac Fret Kisser, and now I'm doing a review of the StewMac Fret Tang Nipper. So you're probably wondering, am I a paid shill for StewMac? And the answer is no. I am not paid by StewMac. I am not an affiliate. They don't send me free tools. When I want a StewMac tool, I order it and pay for it just like everybody else does. That's the only way I feel I can do an honest and fair review of their tools. Now, in truth, if I didn't like the tool, you probably would never hear about it because I don't typically do negative reviews of tools. I just like to talk about the tools that I use that I find to be effective. So what is a Fret Tang Nipper and why would you want one? Well, what a Fret Tang Nipper does is it nips off a portion of the tang right at each end of a length of fret wire that you're going to install into your neck. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if your neck is bound, the tang could damage the fret unless you nip it off. Also, if you're like me and you cut your fret slots with a CNC machine, you have the ability to stop the slot short of the edge of the fretboard. So you have what is effectively a blind fret slot. And obviously if the tang was still in that area as I press in the fret, it would damage the wood. So we nip off a little bit of that end so that it won't damage the wood. And then also if you cut your fret slots normally so that they extend out the sides, you can still nip off a portion of that tang, install the frets, and then plug that little gap on the side where the slot is exposed with some glue mixed with wood dust and conceal that slot. And then you don't have to worry about issues like fret sprout when the humidity levels change. In previous videos, you've seen me use the Symptoms Fret Tang Nipper, and I've had this for a number of years, but it has a few minor flaws. One is that in order to control how much of the tang is going to be removed from the end of the fret wire, you have to install this accessory which doesn't come with it. You have to order it separately and pay for it separately. And what it does is it allows you to, if you turn this knob, it will either insert or retract a thin steel pin that controls how much of the fret tang is going to be removed when you place the fret wire in there. It will stop the fret from going too far in. The problem is, the first time I used it, I broke it. It's a pretty fragile solution here, and I installed it the only way that it can be installed, and as I squeezed the handle to clip the tang, it actually clipped off part of that metal rod, so it didn't work. And Symptoms was nice enough to send me a new one when I told them what happened, but then it happened again on the second one, so I've just never bothered to use it. And instead, when I would go to nip the tang, I just eyeball how far in to insert the fret wire when I go to nip off that tang. And that's not really the best way to do it, because there have been times when I have removed either not enough and therefore the fret wire won't fit into the slot, so I have to go back and try to clip off a little bit more, or I clip off too much, which is going to affect how securely the ends of the fret wire are pressed into the fretboard. So that just never really worked out very well for me. The other things I didn't like was it has these adjustment nuts on the tool, and they tend to come loose and fall off a lot, causing the spring to shoot off and all kinds of weird little unfortunate problems. But then there's also an issue with when I've clipped off the tang, sometimes the pieces of the tang get stuck down inside the tool, and it can be a real chore to try to clean it out so that the tool can keep working. So when StewMac introduced this a couple of years ago, I have to say I was kind of intrigued. I thought this would be a great solution just based on what I was seeing on their website. It looked like this would be a tool that's really going to do what I need the clipper to do as far as minimizing or controlling the amount of tang that gets removed. So, but as luck would have it, I hemmed and hawed for too long, and then the price went up, and I decided it was too expensive and I didn't want to buy it anymore, so I just figured I'd keep on using the Symptoms fret tang nipper until it no longer worked. But then StewMac lowered the prices of a bunch of their tools, including the fret tang nipper, and at that point it was a logical decision to purchase one. So that's what I did. Now the way this works, it's pretty simple. You have, this is the area up here where the clipping of the tang will occur. And there is a cover here that slides back and forth. And once you have the cover in position where you need it to be, you just tighten that it's a little hex screw down. Now what this cover does is it controls how much of the tang you're going to remove by stopping it from going too far forward. So you can actually measure that distance with either a ruler with fine increments, or you could use a caliper to determine exactly how much of the tang you want to remove. And then once you've got that set, you would simply tighten that set screw down and you could clip. Now, when we remove this cover, you will see that there is an insert inside this tool, and it comes with two inserts. Now this may be kind of hard to see, I'm not sure, but it's the profile shape that you're concerned with. There are 4 different profile shapes: narrow, medium, large, and extra large. Now, the one thing I don't like about this tool is that StewMac has these numbered. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you know that, you got to figure out which one is the number 1, which is the number 2, 3, and the 4. But you also, it can be hard to tell just by looking at them which is the narrow, the medium, the large, and the extra large. But what I've found with this tool is you really have to experiment with your fret wire to see which of the inserts you need to use. And this is important because if you don't use the correct insert for the fret wire you're using, you're either going to clip off too much of the fret, which means not only would you clip off the tang, but you'd also remove some of the fret material itself. If it's too small, then what could happen is, or if it's too large, what could happen is you would remove the tang, but you would leave a small portion of the tang on the bottom of the fret wire. So you want to make sure that you're using the right size insert. And I think the best way to do that is just to kind of experiment to see which one fits right. Do some test clipping to see if it's going to do the job that you want it to do. And then with the insert in place, you can slide the cover back and forth until you get, there's a notch here, and once you have it positioned to remove exactly the amount of the tang that you need from each end of your fret wire, you can then tighten the screw down and proceed with nipping off tangs. And when you slide it in, the fret will stop right against the end of the notch in that cover, thereby preventing you from going too far. Then you just simply snip it off. And it does a pretty good job. It might leave a little tiny bit of the tang. Like I said, you have to experiment with the different inserts to see which one's going to work best with the fret wire. And ideally, you want to remove as much of that tang as possible. But I find that rarely happens. So I just usually will hit it a couple of times with a diamond fret file, and that works perfect to remove that tang, or that residual tang. Then I can clip the other side and then install the fret. So this tool works very well, and so far I've used it on 2 different guitar builds since I purchased it, and I've had no issues whatsoever. It stays very sharp. I don't think it's ever going to wear out. The tool is very sturdy, it's very durable, it's rugged, it's heavy duty. Now you will have the 2 inserts and a hex wrench that you have to keep track of, so I would definitely recommend having a drawer where you can keep that so that you don't lose it. And then there's that little hex screw that you need to make sure you keep track of and don't lose. So that's the only perhaps downside to it. But you know, for the price that they've lowered it to, I think that this is a really good tool if you feel it's necessary to nip those tangs off before you install your frets. There are other tools out there that you can use to nip the tangs on your frets. I've seen from really cheap to really expensive, with really cheap being repurposed sheet metal nippers. And I actually had one once, and they don't work very well, and I don't recommend that you waste your money to be frustrated with that tool. But then on the higher end, there are tools where you insert the fret wire and you use a file to grind down the tang, and they work really well, but they're also pretty expensive. So I think when it comes to quickly nipping the tang and doing it accurately with that ability to adjust how much tang you're going to remove, I definitely would recommend the StewMac fret tang nipper. I give it a thumbs up. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And to everybody watching, please consider hitting my eGuitar Plans website. You may want to purchase a plan for guitars or the tools that we use to build guitars. You can also purchase a lot of those same plans from my Highline Guitars merch store, which is displayed below this description, as well as some t-shirts. So yeah, just know that what you're spending is helping to support the channel, but you're getting something in return as well. So until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for future episodes.